When you sell an item online, what happens to that package? Today, we talk to a package tracking expert. This is the My Amazon Guy podcast, and I'm Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. All right, so I'm now joined by Riche Devine, head of partner marketing at Route. Thanks for joining me, Rich.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. It's good to be with you.
Great. So before we talk about the package journey, there's Amazon news. We'll talk about that today with the IPI score going to 500. We'll talk about the actual journey of a package. But before we get into some of those things today, first, go ahead and tell us, what is Route? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Route is a company that does a few things. We fit within the shipping category. And so there's two things that we offer to merchants and customers. The first is we have a consumer-facing app that you can download now from the App Store. We're approaching top 50 status on the planet, and it allows for universal visual tracking, where a customer can aggregate any shipments across any merchant, Amazon included, and understand where those shipments are on a map and get notifications for when they arrive, if there's a delay, and really be able to answer this question that shipping and logistics experts call WISMO, which is, where is my order?
Where is WISMO? I love it.
Yeah.
Sounds like the name of a cat. That's great.
Yeah, I had a gizmo, but this is WISMO.
Don't feed it after midnight. Got it. No water. All right.
Yeah, and then the second offering, which is really special for merchants, is shipping protection, premium shipping protection. And you really, if you think about this offering from Route's perspective, what we're doing is democratizing a standard that's already been set by Amazon. And that is, hey, if something happens during the space that exists between the submission of an order and the moment that order is received by a customer, Amazon's going to take care of it. If it gets lost, if it gets damaged, if there's theft that occurs during that journey of the package, Amazon will take care of both the merchant and the customer. And whether a merchant or a customer realizes it or not, there's a series of kind of insurance and levers behind the scene. And the merchant's paying for some of that, and the customer's paying for some of that as part of the mix that happens behind their Prime subscriptions.
What do you mean? I need to deliver my item to the consumer and not have it damaged and have it all in one shape? This is a good idea? I would never have guessed. All right. Yeah, so that sounds good. And there's this journey that the customer has that a lot of sellers, they kind of black box it. They don't think about it, right? Amazon's been solving this problem for everybody, so nobody thinks about it, especially if you got your own Shopify site up and you're interacting with your customers and that order comes in. So I guess ultimately put, why should sellers care about that last leg of the journey that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, there's a few reasons. That chain of shipping and delivery is there's a lot of complexity, and ultimately the reason that merchants and sellers need to care about that is certainly it's timing, but it's all about the customer experience. If you just cross your fingers or do what I think most sellers do, and they just kind of concede ownership over that shipping experience to a third party, whether it's Amazon or another third-party logistics partner.
Wouldn't be hard for a few of us to crap on UPS or FedEx while we're at it.
Right.
They throw your package onto the porch and run away. There's definitely a few videos online. I know you have to be politically correct, so I'll do it for you. That's why I did that.
I appreciate
but yes, trusting them to make it right doesn't always happen. And I'll give you one more example. I tried to sell a hot sauce one time through Amazon's FBA, and it's a heavy bottle. In fact, I've got one right here. So for those that are following on YouTube, this giant, heavy, multiple pound package, Sweet Heat, great product, great reviews. I caved in, couldn't make money on it, no longer sell it. And I keep it on my desk as a reminder of my giant logistics failure. But basically, they started shipping my package in freaking envelopes, padded bubble envelopes. Amazon does not care about your packaging. And most carriers are going to chuck it around. They don't care either. So you, as a seller, should care.
Yeah, that's right. And there, there's this really interesting inverse relationship between the size of the third-party logistics partner and the degree to which they care. The bigger they are, the less they care. And there's a host of alternative or kind of supplemental logistics partners that take care of what's called the first mile and the last mile, or the final mile. And those carriers, they're in the business of offering, a next level degree of service in terms of care of the package, and really especially speed, being able to get to parity with what Amazon's, has, pre-pandemic been trying to do in terms of really delivering lightning fast speed against their logistics process. And there's other carriers available. We fit within that space of, hey, you typically concede control to any of these carriers and it affects your brand. Statistically, we know that 97% of customers, if something happens during shipment, they will blame the brand. They won't blame UPS, they won't blame USPS, they won't blame the delivery partner, they won't blame Amazon, they will blame the seller. And so that being the case, how do you account for and really protect your brand and your relationship with the customer? And part of that is diving in, exposing, and trying to dig into the black box of third-party logistics partners, and certainly what we do, which is helping you offer shipping protection in case something does happen.
So would you think that shipping right now is going through kind of a revolution of sorts? We've seen Amazon start doing direct delivery. We've seen the post office announce potential cuts, and they may have delayed shipping. So it seems like the market right now could bear some changes. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, across the chain of events, I don't think there's been a time where there's been more transformation in terms of shipping logistics. Again, we have to recognize that Amazon has been a huge catalyst for change.
Half the economy, can't not blame them. Yep.
The pandemic's been, an urgent, reason for change that's for better or worse. But there are levers to pull, and there's space where new categories that apply logistics are being created, and new solution providers, so that your reliance on the major carriers or even your reliance on Amazon is not as extreme as it once was. And it's just a matter of creating awareness and really taking the initiative to explore what is available in terms of third-party logistics players.
So one of those changes that I think sent shockwaves through the Amazon seller community as well as most e-com. So on Monday, Amazon announced they were moving their IPI score up to 500. It used to be 350 in January. It was 400 as early as Sunday. Now it's 500 as of Monday. And what that means, for those that aren't familiar with this change, is Amazon is going to limit the amount of space you have in FBA. So if you have a poorer score than 500, a score less than 500, you will have a limit about the stock that you can send into FBA. And so the reason this impacts you, of course, is if your limit is smaller than your seasonal growth in Q4, and for 70% of the sellers, it probably is, you're probably guaranteed to stock out this year. And so are your competition. So things that you could do to manage this problem: raise your prices, find alternative ways to control your 3PLs, and partners that can help you logistically ship this. So Rich, as part of the changes that we've seen with all the disruption, and all of these challenges, why do you think that sellers should spend more time and focus on controlling their shipping and controlling how the consumer interacts with it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, first of all, it was a really interesting announcement. I think, it's not necessarily unsurprising, but I would look at this, if I'm a seller, I look at this as an opportunity. This is not something that's just going to affect me. As you said, Stephen, it affects all my competition. So this is one of those moments of shift or pivot where, if you're an aggressive seller, zig while everyone else is trying to figure out how they continue to zag. And certainly that there are 3PLs and other solution providers that are going to look at this as an opportunity to provide solutions. And so I think my sense is that most sellers spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about the first two phases of a customer journey. How do I acquire customers, get in front of them, push them through my funnel? When I have their attention, how do I convert them and really focus on, point of purchase optimization? Once an order is submitted, I wash my hands of it. And so, my advice is, hey, that those dynamics, as you said, they're really being disruptive, but that creates a tremendous amount of opportunity. And so I think there's lots of partners that are emerging right now that offer more favorable terms. We're one of those where we're going to help you maintain ownership of the entire customer journey without sacrificing 30% of your soul to Jeff Bezos.
30? It might be like close to 100 for me. So
yeah.
that's where I'm in business because of Jeff Bezos. So I guess my soul's
Yeah,
gone.
that's
It's
true.
toast. Okay. So 2-day shipping has been a revolutionary thing due to Amazon. FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, is the cause of that. Now there's even like 1-day FBA or 2-hour Prime now. It's like, man, our urgency as a society has increased year in and year out. And while I think the pandemic and our turmoil globally probably will create some hyper localization, shipping speed seems to have never been more important. There has, there's what's called seller fulfilled Prime as well, where consumers can use their own 3PL and ship directly to the consumer with a 2-day guarantee and still get the Prime badge. But it's super expensive. So I know you may not be an expert on seller fulfilled Prime, but you probably do have some insight you could share on shipping speeds.
Yeah.
What should sellers do to strategize around this?
Yeah, no, I have pretty strong opinions on this. And so my first response is there is only so much you can do. We've got some realities that are new realities because of the pandemic. We've got realities based on, what Amazon is going to do now at their whim and what they may do in the future. And so the standard that's been set in terms of expectations for customers on shipping speed, that's going to continue to be pushed, but there will always be things that will be challenging. We can't, instant delivery is a great aspiration, but what happens when that is not possible? And so my answer is, what can we do to maintain a good customer experience in light of the realities of shipping speed when they're not as optimal as we'd like them to be? And so we look at this, this concept of engagement during the first and final mile after an order has been submitted. And we've been seeing just an overwhelming increase through our app on engagement with an order after it's been submitted. And so since the pandemic, especially as shipping speeds have been
all over the place
affected, we've got order tracking behavior is up by 250%, meaning that customers are
That's a
checking.
big increase.
Yeah, it's and we've never seen a hockey stick movement like that up until this point. And so for us, that was alarming, not from a negative perspective, but it was eye-opening in terms of, oh my gosh, this is a measure of intent and engagement from a customer. They're excited about their shipment. And
Or they're just worried they're not going to get their toilet paper,
well,
right?
they're worried, but it's a moment of opportunity to connect the brand and enter into a dialogue or a conversation as they wait. And
So
most
it's an
brands just,
engagement, yeah, an
yeah,
engagement
they just
opportunity.
wait. They don't, they don't want to touch the customer once they've got their money in their pockets. But why not? And if you can take opportunities to, I would look at, your marketing automation streams, and, if there are triggers or shipping speeds have been affected, create some communication streams that keep them excited, keep them engaged, connect them to customer service. There's a host of, kind of innovative things that can be done, but just doing nothing exacerbates the issue.
I think my default marketing philosophy is a really weird one. I don't think you hear this anywhere else, but my default marketing philosophy is something is better than nothing. And so you triggered my thought when you said most people do nothing. And that's why my default marketing philosophy is go do something, right?
Yeah.
So at bare minimum, if you don't have an email series in place, I like to use Feedback Whiz. For any time an order comes in, you trigger it like, hey, here's your next steps. Here's some information about best way to use our product.
Yeah.
You got tools like Route, where we're talking to Rich today, where you can engage with the user, especially as the item is en route, where the highest intent and anticipation power exists. And if you take that advantage, that's an extra several touch points. It's not just one touch point, right, Rich?
Yeah, that's right.
So walk me through these touch points a little bit. So walk me through every single touch point that you might be able to use via Route.
Yeah, well, the first touch point to really think about is the point of purchase touch point. So we're involved at the point of purchase, and then we really become a solution post purchase. But at the point of purchase, there's two types of deployment for Route, and I want to make sure that your sellers understand that as a service to merchants and sellers, Route is free, which is one of the reasons we've been able to grow so fast. But you simply deploy basically a widget at your checkout, in your checkout environment, whether it's Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever your e-commerce platform is, and the customer has the opportunity to opt in to shipping protection for a small fee, anywhere between 98 cents and 1 to 1.5% of the value of the shipment. So for certain types of goods or orders, this becomes really important as an initial touch point, because it's an expression of trust and care from the brand to the customer. We're giving you a solution. We know that this is something that you care about. You've invested in us now that you've made a purchase. Let us help. We want to invest in you and make sure that the delivery happens the way it should be. And if anything goes wrong, you're protected. And so that's the first touch point is point of purchase. And then, there's a series of things that there's a series of logistic touch points that it's certainly hard to control, but that's packaging, that's the pickup of the order, that's the transportation, that's sending it to a final mile or last mile delivery partner. And there's a bunch of things that can go on there in terms of damage, loss, even theft. Those are, let's be honest, those are hard to control, but they're not hard to defend against and deliver a really good, proactive customer experience when something does happen. And the final touch point, Stephen, is, okay, well, what happens if something does happen, whether it's loss, theft, or damage? And most of these carriers, they have insurance levers to pull, but they're incented to make that a challenge and make it somewhat cumbersome because they don't want to cover the cost of it. We take an opposite approach where we focus on the customer and we want to deliver a degree of generosity. And so if something happens, we believe that frictionless touch points are really necessary. We offer a one-click claims process where the customer can just simply click and submit a claim, and we will cover it. We will reorder the product on behalf of the customer from the merchant, so the merchant gets credit for 2 orders, or we will refund it and we will cover the cost of the refund, and the merchant doesn't have to worry about that. So that chain of events between post-purchase, being able to track things through an app or through an email kind of tracking solution, and then the claims process. Those are all touch points that I think most sellers aren't aware of, that are things that they control, but allow them to take back ownership of the post-purchase experience and really deliver a careful and deliberate treatment to the customer that doesn't end once they've made a purchase.
So I think you've made a compelling point that the way we care about our customer needs to expand. It's not just when they open that package and what they see inside of it. It's not just what's on the website when they order. There's an in-between aspect, and multiple touch points are available to accommodate that. So I think that's pretty compelling, Rich. All right, so last question for you today. As you think about the current revolution as it's expediting and changing, and engagements and interests are up, what do you think the future of shipping, logistics, tracking is? What do you think is going to happen next?
Yeah, I think a lot of this disruption is happening, and they're smaller but really growing players, and it's all about the democratization of Amazon-like services. And I think there's a huge there's a cascade of opportunity that kind of pertains to that concept of democratization. So one of them is certainly shipping protection, which we're solving, which you don't have to rely on Amazon. We can offer shipping protection across any platform. We can offer that for any seller for virtually any product or good. Another is things like returns. There's a lot of really interesting players right now that are offering return solutions where you can, rather than having to go through the wrapping and shipment of returning your good, you can just take it to a location and let them deal with it, just like Amazon's done. But there's players that are solving that. And I think there's a whole host of things and solutions that Amazon has capitalized on as they've seen some blue sky opportunity. But they're available to sellers. It's just a matter of focusing and kind of closing the gap on your awareness of what happens within that post-purchase experience. And again, my experience is that most sellers only spend time on acquisition and point of purchase.
I'm a marketer. I'm guilty right here. Acquisition only. However, I do think it's important that all companies get 3 things in place. They need marketing or acquisition. They also need operations or retention, exactly kind of what the topic of our podcast was today. And then finally, finance. So Rich, I think you've made some compelling cases on why that part of the operations is widely ignored, why it needs some more attention. So I appreciate you coming on the My Amazon Guy podcast today.
Yeah, I love your content, Stephen. Appreciate the opportunity to have a good chat, and all my best to you.
Appreciate it. Well, if you're joining us from the Route audience, my name is Stephen Pope, founder of My Amazon Guy. We are a one-stop shop, all things Amazon, everything from search engine optimization to advertising management, catalog control, and everything in between for your seller central needs on Amazon. That is the My Amazon Guy podcast today. We hope you like and subscribe and tell 2 other people about us so we can spread the love, spread the value and the knowledge that we're offering here for free on the My Amazon Guy podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next time.